So one thing I want to describe in this is the clock runs out. I got videos and pictures I store on hand because there's so much different mold stuff going on. Just stuff with my roommate that I gotta record. It's pretty full. So it doesn't every time I want to do a new video I have to clear some out and add a new one. But I have a timer. The most I ever get is 45 minutes and I have to delete my roadmap app and another app, Facebook, to be able to get 45 minutes. So it's inconvenient. So most of them are closer than 30, and I'll let you run sometimes over. But can you imagine trying to explain Munchausen syndrome, the actual events in your life, in 15 to 30 minutes? It usually takes people 3 or 4 1 hour appointments just to get the main idea. If you spend another 6 1 hour appointments with me just speaking about my illness, my mother, my father, things like that, then you get a really good idea. But it's hard to try to fit everything quickly in a small area. And so sometimes I oversimplify. I also can make mistakes, don't get me wrong. I might say the wrong word. I might mix up two. No, I don't mix up too much. How do I say that? Mix up a name, like Bob or Bill. I might call Bill Bob. Or I might be describing events and I might have the wrong year. Or I might, like, if I don't quite remember exactly the words, I'll give you the words I do know they said and then the gist of it. Like how when my mother gave me Epicac, the exact word she said was, "I'm giving you extra Epicac." But I also watched her pour the whole bottle in, so sometimes I'd be like, "Give me a whole bottle of Epicac," because I watched her just pour it into an empty cup. There was no water added. So I try to describe these events, and it's super hard. I can't imagine anybody in my family having to try so hard to describe how their mother abused them in weird and unusual ways. And it definitely is abuse. I mean, it's clear. It's goddamn clear. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at these events and go, "Oh yeah, she's abusing him with drugs." Yep. I mean, the Halloween curse for fucking years. That's what I thought it was. I thought I had a Halloween curse where every Halloween I would start vomiting, get very weak, get pale, and I wasn't allowed to get candy. I wasn't allowed to put on my costume. I wasn't allowed to have candy. The only candy I was allowed is a piece that my mother would hide and bring one piece down. But here's the problem. I was allowed to go trick-or-treating. I was. So why did I not go out trick-or-treating? Because out of about a 4-year period, 3 times or so, actually, no, I know it's 3 times. I know 3 times for sure because I counted them. It might be more, but for 3 years at the least, I know my mother was not getting her way. She wanted me not to go trick-or-treating. She didn't want me to go get candy. She said, okay, well, maybe that's a good mother. She doesn't want me to get a rotted tooth or something, right? No big deal there. My mother does not want me to go trick-or-treating. But my father, other people say, no, let him go. All the other kids go. He got his costume for a reason. Let him go. Still no problems there, right? I'm allowed to go out trick-or-treating, even though my mother said no, my father said yes, so I'm allowed to go out. But that means my mother is not getting her way. Now that's a problem, because whenever my mother wasn't getting her way, she would do very crazy things that I have to now explain, and it's super hard. Like, for instance, my mother called me over to take my medication. Still not a big deal, right? I'm allowed to go trick-or-treating. My mother's not getting her way. She calls me over to take my medication. We all know that. That's nothing new, right? That's all the same old thing. Then I'm in the bathroom vomiting. Right when the medication kicks in, I start getting nauseous, vomiting, weak, pale. And I'm in the bathroom. And my mother's been checking on me like every 15 minutes, by the way. She looks. I'm like, why is she watching me like a hawk every 5 minutes coming over? But then I got sick. I started vomiting. My mother comes by the doorway. Aha, you're sick. You can't go out trick-or-treating. Honey, he can't go out trick-or-treating. He's sick. Are you really sick? Yeah. I don't feel so good. Do they bring me to the hospital? No, they don't. So there's the problems right there. Not only did they not bring me to the hospital, not only did they not report this to a physical doctor, it also happened 2 more times. So tell me, there is the facts I have. There is the facts my father has. There are the facts. My mother did not want me to go trick-or-treating. My father gave me permission. My mother wasn't getting her way. She called me over to take my meds. I got sick. They didn't get me any help. My mother got her way. And then that happened 2 more times on Halloween where my mother wasn't getting her way on Halloween. She called me over to take my meds, and then I started getting sick. Now, when I got older, the 12, 13, my mother tried to misinform doctors to get me malpracticed on purpose. She would misinform doctors, make up illnesses, make up psych illnesses, give me way too much medication, even slip me her own pills. And what did that accomplish? My mother destroying my body, violating my body, slipping me pills, lying to my doctors, twisting things, even trying to get me to repeat things that aren't true. Like, for instance, if I played with matches, my mother convinced me because I could have burned down the house, I'm trying to burn down the house, and I need to tell my father I'm trying to burn down the house. That is crazy. Why are you doing that to a 5-year-old? Why is a mother in private walking over right in a dark room, right near the dark closet, having a talk with his son, finds some matches on the ground. He's played with some matches to look at the glowy thing. And then the mother decides to ask him, why did you do this? And the kid says, I don't know. Okay, everything's normal up to that point. Now my mother's going to go nuts again. My mother goes, no, no, no. Tell me, why did you do it? You were trying to burn down the house, weren't you? No, no, I wasn't. Well, you could have burned down the house, so you are trying to burn down the house. Just admit it. You're trying to burn down the house. I don't know. Yes, you are. There's the matches right there. There's proof. Yes, you are. I'm going to get your father, and you tell him how you tried to burn down the house. You better tell him. You better tell him the truth now. And then she grabs my father. I'm 5 years old, crying, not knowing what the hell. And I just repeat what my mother told me to repeat. Just like when my mother told me Santa Claus was coming down the chimney, and then somebody asked why there was presents under their tree, I would tell them it was Santa Claus. Why? Because my mother and father told me that. That's it. I'm 5 years old. We know these facts. When you can add them up yourself, and you can tell me what was happening on Halloween. Now, during my childhood, my nephew, me, my brother, my mother, my mother, my mother, my father, the teachers, anybody, they all have heard me near Halloween say, I hope I don't get the Halloween curse again. I hope I don't get the Halloween curse again. And then they would ask, what's the Halloween curse? Oh, I just get sick for every Halloween. But it wasn't every Halloween. It was 3 of my first Halloweens. Remember, we're talking about age 5 to 12. Those are where you get to go trick-or-treating. 5 to 12. By the time I was 11, I was calling it the Halloween curse. I had 3 where I got sick. I had a bunch where I had to stay home. And I had 2 where I got to go out. I had 2 trick-or-treats during a child. One, I got 1 piece of candy and a gunkwit. The second one, I actually had a good time. So I've had 1 time in Chelmsford where I got to go trick-or-treating. But who cares about that shit? Kids don't even go trick-or-treating nowadays. Who cares about candy? But your mother telling you to take your meds and then you get sick instantly after, and that didn't happen the day before, didn't happen the day next. Something was going on with her, and when you just take the information, we know what's wrong with me. I have epileptic seizures from a neurological disorder. I have problems with my nervous system. I have PTSD from my mother and a black eye in New Mexico. I have anxiety from my mother just torturing my brain and doing awful things to me and saying and doing weird things to me, even screaming at me that I'm less than a dog. I'm less than human, so she can do whatever she wants. When she got drunk, she used to say the quiet part. That's what she was always thinking and always acting like. She was always acting like violating my body was no big deal. If she caused a lifetime of harm, it's no big deal because he's less than human. That was my mother's attitude in her own brain. And when she got drunk, she would say it out loud. She would say the quiet part out loud. It was like truth serum. Whenever my mother got drunk, her dark side that she was trying to keep hidden from everybody would come out. And with me in private, or sometimes with me with people, she would just take it out on me because I was her lightning rod. Sometimes the family saw it, but when I was in private with her, it was fucking nuts. Fucking completely nuts. Like I jumped in a pool once and cut the back of my heel on a fence. Just jumped in the pool. 10 witnesses, they all saw it. No big deal, right? What do you think my mother did when it was time to get stitches because my heel is caught on a fence and got cut open? What do you think my mother does? Well, my brother and my father tell her that she's just fantasizing, that they don't think that she's right. Because my mother says that it must be suicidal behavior and he has a mental illness. She's trying that bullshit. She knows it's bullshit, but she gotta push it. She doesn't want to get caught for the coordination issue. So anytime I have problems moving my body, like bumping in the furniture, catching my feet or whatever, she doesn't want the doctors to catch on that I'm twitching, I'm having tics, I'm shaking. My mother has been told these things on the phone over and over by doctors and teachers, but she fights them and argues with them. Okay, so my mother is making up a story that could get me hurt and on medication, saying that I'm ripping my own heel open and needing 2 layers of stitches. What the fuck? How does this woman come up with this? Okay, well, I tell her that's not true. My mother has my father and my brother there. They say it's not true. There's witnesses. They saw it. It was just me jumping in a pool, cut the back of my foot on the fence. No big deal. It happens. But my mother wants to push this fantasy, but now she's been overruled. My mother's not getting her way. Now, my brother and my father walk away, and then it's just me and my mother. What do you think my mother does? She sticks her face in my face, puts her nose up to my nose, and says right in my face, I don't care what they say. You're a self-harmer. That's suicidal behavior, and I'm telling your doctors. And then she walked away. The most evil look, most violent mother, a mother that wanted to hurt her son. You could see it in her eyes. She wanted to hurt me. This was the look of somebody wanting to hurt me, but they're not going to punch me. What they're going to do is they're going to pick up rulers, smack me around. They're going to give me a backhand. They're going to slip me pills. They're going to lie to my doctors, getting me malpracticed on purpose. Yes, my family try to, still now, if I go to the hospital tomorrow, there is a 99% chance I will get a false diagnosis and I'll get malpractice. My mother set it up that way. So every doctor will be confused, and 99% of the time, they malpractice me. And then I get serious injuries, I get hurt, I get sick, or the doctors end up going in circles, and then they go, why is nothing working? Because you're doing the wrong shit. You're listening to the wrong medical records. If they listen to me, we move forward. If you listen to my mother, we move backwards. If you listen to my father's bullshit, we move backwards. If we listen to my father's wife's, backwards. And it's going to turn me into something. You can't do this to people and expect them to just take it and laying down. That's the problem. Now, I've been following Jesus and giving this family love my whole entire life. Right now, they all have their great lives, and it's because of me. They don't realize it either. But when you think in retrospect, what would have my mother done to their kids? To how many arguments would have there been with my father if it was just those two? How much more fighting would there have been? How much more drugs? How much more alcohol? My mother would have went off the rails if she didn't have her plaything. If she didn't have her plaything, and if she wasn't allowed to make up stories at the doctors, and if she wasn't able to play with somebody's body, and if she didn't get all that attention, oh, look how I'm healing my son, look how I'm healing my son, look how I'm healing my son. You know, if she didn't get all that attention from making those type of statements, of course, she would have been all over my family. But see, they don't consider that. Well, how about my father? If my father was brought to court and they already knew he was guilty and they had everything they needed, Do you think that would have affected my father to have the whole family know that he stole money, he got caught, and now he's being brought up on minor charges? Of course they would, but I bailed him out. Not only that, when I was dying in the woods, figuring out what was wrong with me, trying to get doctors to give me an honest answer, and the emergency rooms just keep on releasing me on the spot with no answers, no treatments, nothing. They have nothing to go on but my mother's and father's. He's a drunk, he's an addict, he's a fantasy maker, he's meant all that bullshit that never ever works because it's not me. Yeah, I have illnesses. I have anxiety, PTSD, ADHD. Oh, and I'm missing many, many years of education that slowed me down. I still have reading and writing issues. The writing is more of my nervous system not being able to keep up. But after the overdose my mother gave me, I was writing my name differently than I did before. I used to write across. After my mother gave me an overdose, I started writing across and down. And it still happens today when I'm writing. My arm shakes, my nervous system is off. It's the words that I'm trying to write, I can't get my hand to keep up sometimes. It's just not possible sometimes for me. So writing is a whole separate issue. That one I think I have plenty of practice and plenty of the skills to write. It's just my nervous system is out of whack. If I slow it down, I do a little better, but it hurts like a bitch. If I try to slow it wicked down, believe it or not, the signal I have to keep on sending over and over to my arm. If I try to slow it down too much, but I found a trick where I'm trying to make a letter, I just break up like the letter T. I'll break up into 5 parts and I'll just try to do dash, 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 then straight down. Actually, I guess that's 4. But I'll try to kind of, when I'm imagining it on the page as I write, instead of imagining it as one line across and one line down and you got a T, I'll try to break it into just kind of imagining 1, 2, 1, 2, and then you'll see sometimes the stop mark halfway on a straight line for me. And that sometimes I do that and that helps me slow down to a ridiculous point. But I've had this for 25 years, so I've learned ways to kind of deal with it. And I don't like people seeing it either, but they all do. No matter how much I try to hide my disability, people will see it. Now, that's not a problem. Why do I have to hide my disability? Am I a Jew hiding from the Nazis or something? I mean, what the fuck? Why would I have to hide it? Oh, because we don't have documentation of it. And if you don't have a documentation of an extremely severe disability that could kill you, and people see all the time, they get confused. How could this kid not have paperwork? Oh, did this just happen to you? Because we just met you this year, Zach. So is this something new? No, I've had it for 25 years. Oh, well, just bring your medical records in. Oh, I don't have any on it. Wait, you've had seizures, falls, problems with cold, you fell down during fireworks, you've shaken, you had an overdose, you had a seizure in New Mexico, you had all these different types of things going on with you, but not a single doctor wrote anything about it. Yeah, when I bumped in the furniture for 10 years, getting scabs on my knees, and I'm called into the living room by my mother to berate me about all the scabs on my body, my mother would just make up mental illnesses about it. It's self harming. He's bumping in the furniture. It's called self harming. If I'm sucking on my skin, checking what my nervous system looks like, and I'm at the doctor's office, and my doctor's like, "Why are you sucking on your left arm, leaving a hickey?" And I said, "I just wanted to know what it felt like." And that's because it felt different than it was supposed to before. It's like night and day. After the overdose, after my mother fried me, it was like night and day with my nervous system. But I had what's my body's new and awful. What fucking happened? I was winning swimming medals, and now I can barely move my arms. What the fuck's going on? I feel like I'm learning how to walk all over. I'm kind of like just different. I mean, my walking, my talking, my movements, the way I write my name, all that changed overnight. How could that be? I mean, the only thing that happened is my mother gave me meds, and then I lost my vision. Then my whole body went completely numb, and then I lost the ability to speak. Then my mother thought it was necessary to call 911 or one of the emergency contacts, but they told her to bring me to the emergency room, and she refused. And then I passed out while my breathing slowed down. So, I mean, just a normal night, right? According to my mother and father, just an allergy attack. Nothing to worry about. That was my father. Still to this day, he says that was nothing to worry about. My father, still to this day, and his new wife, she's more than happy to kill a person, to violate their rights, to fuck with them. And if they do nothing, that's just as bad as doing something. If you do something and you mess up, at least you tried to do something good. If you try to do something bad, I guess you're making it worse. But doing nothing, you're just letting your machine go wild. If you're at the bottom of the hill and I push, let's say you're at the bottom of a fourth hill, I push a car, okay, down the first hill, and it goes down, up, down, up, down, and it hits you. Did I still hit you with the car? Am I still hurting you? Of course I am. It doesn't matter that the car took 20 minutes to go up and down hills. Okay, how about this one? If your mother has Munchausen syndrome and she poisoned you with a drug that takes 10 years to kill you, and then your mother passes away as this cancer, as this disease starts progressing, like let's say your mother gives you an overdose of benzocaine and you get a very rare disease. It takes 4 years for you to get the disease, and it takes you 4 more years to figure out what it is. Your mother passes away. Is it still your mother's fault that you have the disease from your mother sneaking you benzocaine, lots of it in your food or something? Would that be her fault? Of course. Well, let's say she had a husband that knew about it and he could fix it any time and stop his disease. There was a cure, there was a treatment, they could fix the records so the doctors knew that the mother injected him with benzocaine. That way they go, oh, that's what's wrong with you. It's a benzocaine poisoning and you got that, I forget what it's pronounced, but there actually is a very, very bad disease you can get from that. That's why you got to wear goggles, gloves, and a mask when making your own benzo cream from scratch. And you have to measure it. And I do only like 2.5 to 3% just to be on the safe side. But it's really not that dangerous. It's actually, people do it willy-nilly most of the time when they're doing home. They won't even wear gloves. But me, I'm always worried that, after a mother has Munchausen syndrome and does what she did to me, you don't want to take anything to chance. You know what I mean? I don't want to worry about my medications hurting me no more. That is not okay. It's not okay. My mother and father hurt me with pills and was slipping me pills I wasn't prescribed and trying to make me out to be disabled to Social Security while they were doing all this, making up stories at the doctors. Ugh. Wow, that loogie made my voice sound deep, huh? Yeah, I mean, if you're going to make stories up at the doctors over and over and over, you can't be mad at the person who's the victim who's hurt because you made up a story. And if that person goes nuts and kills you or tortures somebody you love or takes all your property away and makes you bankrupt and you have to live in a retirement home on your Social Security, or for some reason you lose everything and you don't have a car or a house or a place to live, I guess, wow, people, if people are willing to give you a chance to handle something, that's amazing. I mean, I don't know anybody who could be made crippled, abused, pilled up, slipped pills, slapped around, smacked, and still be like, well, let's give them another chance. Let's try to help them. But that's me, always forgiving, always trying to do what Jesus would do. And sometimes I get mad and I talk about what could happen if I was living in the woods again. Maybe one night I drink a nip and I decide I'm going to take out the people who did this to me. Or maybe I go to find a couple plants I know of and I just boil them down, put them in a syringe, tap them, attach them to a bow and arrow, and fire it into one of the people who did this to me. I mean, yeah, when I'm living in the woods, those are viable options. I mean, if they're not going to do the right thing when you're nice, if they're not going to do the right thing when you're straight, if they're not going to do the right thing after 25 years of you bringing this up at doctor's offices and other places, well, maybe they'll do the right thing when they're tied to a tree and they got nails going through their toenails or something. You know what I mean? You tie them to the tree, you say, are you ready to handle your shit? No, okay. And you just keep on going. And then once when they're untied, they'll know, and then you have to kill yourself. You have to make sure they know they fucked up. Make sure they know the curse will be passed on to all your loved ones, and you just tell them that while they're tied to a tree. Well, I don't want to act like that, no. But I can see that when I'm living in the woods, I'm going to need an option to be human. Okay, so what do I need to not die of exposure in the woods? Is it a shelter? Well, no, shelters won't let me stay there. Why won't nobody work with me? Why can't I do it? Well, they've told me what's wrong. They told me they need paperwork from doctors on my disabilities. Okay, so I just do that, right? So I go to the doctors. I tell them what's wrong. I tell them the real medical history. They go look at my medical history and they go, it doesn't match. Zach's giving me a medical history, and look at the medical history we're getting from the mother and father. Well, if we believe the mother and father, we should just throw this guy out and ignore him. But if we believe Zach, we should get his insurance to cover a lot of treatments. He should stay overnight. We should do observation. We should put him through this test and this test and this test. But then the insurance company just got information from my father saying it's all a fantasy. So the insurance says, no, no need. We have documentation from 2019 that says Zach is just a storyteller. And they go, oh, okay, so we just can throw him out. And then I don't get the treatment I need, so I just have more and more seizures, head injuries, and I lose memories and parts of my body that I'll never get again. I'll never ride a bike the same way again. Why? Because my father wouldn't let me get better and get treatment. The doctors need the honest truth. They need somebody to stop lying and clear out the lies. Stop your lies from hurting me. You've already made the lies. You already broke the 9th commandment. There is a reason why God came down to Moses and made the 9th commandment. Thou shalt not bear false witness. You know why? Because if you bear false witness against another Jew 2,000 years ago, there might be a chance that you got falsely murdered. Let's say somebody accused you as a thief, but you really weren't a thief. You might get murdered for doing nothing just because somebody was mad at you. Somebody is mad that you have a more beautiful wife than he does. So he goes up to Moses and says, hey, Moses, Joey over there is a thief. He stole 2 of my sheep. And then Moses says, settle it among yourselves. And then, he gets a posse up and they just beat on him because of what? You were jealous of his wife? But that's not what the beater is going to say. He's going to say, you stole my goat. You stole my goat. Why? Because he's bearing false witness against thy neighbor. There's a reason why you don't do that. But my father bared false witness against me with my mother at the doctor's office repeatedly, so bad that I will never get anything but malpractice 99% of the time at the doctor's. 99% of the time, my records come out fucked up. Oh, Zach arrived here, possible drugs. And then the second part will say, no drugs found in system, no alcohol found in system. Arrived smelling like booze on clothing, but no alcohol in system. Found unconscious, unable to move legs, released. And then they don't even mention the fall in the parking lot, I bet, because it's not like they were looking at me or anything. I'm just trying to leave at that point because they told me to leave. So I just end up, by the time nobody's looking, nobody sees me, I'm falling over. Then halfway to a friend's house that maybe they did let me stay there for just to recover for the night. But to get there, I had to walk across town, and I'm falling into this brick wall. It's right in like an ATM. It's a wall walling off in a Bank of America ATM in the middle of nowhere. So the sidewalk is just a big brick wall. I end up getting really dizzy, falling over. But instead of falling straight on my face this time, I fall sideways and I hit my head against the wall. Because it's like the room is going left and right. Why am I so dizzy? I have no alcohol in my system, so we know it's not booze. Well, I have a concussion. I mean, I hit my head pretty bad, and I was unconscious. And my legs aren't moving great. I'm dizzy as fuck. Well, the hospital shouldn't have released you then. Well, that's what I told them. I told them that they shouldn't be releasing me, but they said, too bad. That's what happens to people when your parents are fucking assholes who want to murder you. They're committing murder. They're killing another human being. If you want to kill somebody, that's how you do it in secret. If you have a child and you adopt a little 5-year-old and you want Social Security and you want your child to die young, just copy my parents. Just slip them pills and bring him to the doctors making up stories and move 4 times in his lifetime. If you keep moving him, you keep doing this, he will die at a young age. You will get Social Security, and your son will suffer greatly. So if you're out for that crazy type of thing, if you're somebody mentally ill out there, if you're some horrible person, just copy my parents. All you need to do is adopt a child, start slipping him pills, you slip him more pills, give him an overdose, you give him a perk, make him sick, then bring him to another state far away, like California, then bring him to Texas, then bring him to Florida, and then live in Florida and keep drugging him, then bring him to Mass, keep drugging him, but then get the doctors to drug him. Now he's 12, 13 years old. Well, the doctors are going to see him all fucked up from those pills you're giving him, and if you did a good enough job, trying to kill your son in the long run, then you should have a fucked up body, maybe epilepsy, maybe he has a slur now, maybe he can't walk and he's in a wheelchair. Who knows what you did to him? Anyways, so now the doctors don't know how to make heads or tails, but now you can get your husband just to nod his head and sign off. So as long as they got 2 people signing off on this mental illness stuff, fine, we can get it forward and we can get the doctors to give them drugs. And then when we see side effects, we can ignore the side effect list, bring them the new doctors, and say that those side effects are bothering them. Also, we can try to find doctors that will ignore our son, that are writing books. If a doctor is taking our money, they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. If they're trying to write a book about our son, all we have to do is feed them a lot of good material. So we do that, we're going to get everything we want, pills, diagnoses. We just got to find somebody that's writing a book. If you do that, you got a free pass for all the drugs you ever want. Yep, just find somebody that wants to write a book and then just make up stories about your son that sound good in the book. Tell him that he has attachment disorder and he has a problem with his mother and he's out to get his new mother because he hates his new mother, and all these stories about ruler beatings and ruler hitting him, they're all fantasies, even though there was witnesses to it and they cried. Yes, me and my nephew, we had to see my mother. I had to see the ruler hit me in the face, hit me in the shoulder, only leave a little pink mark. But she used the edge too. I guess I'm just used to getting hit. I'm just used to getting backhanded and hit for nothing, for absolutely nothing. It's not like I did something either. When I did something wrong, it's not like my mother hit me. She hit me when she was drunk, mad, angry, or trying to send a message to my brother. Or if she was acting crazy and I called her crazy, she'd pick up her shoe, throw it at my head. If I called her a bitch because she was trying to do fucked up things with the doctors into me again, she'd take her backhand and slap me. But what happens when I actually do something serious, like I steal money or I play with a book of matches? What does my parents do on the serious ones? Oh, my mother slips me drugs. She misreports symptoms. She gives me too much of the antidepressants, 3 of them. She gives me a bunch of downers, depressants, antidepressants, just a whole mix of antipsychotics. And then I start getting really, really shitty feelings, horrible at night, suicidal thoughts, this dark sinking feeling, just horrible, horrible feeling in my body. Do I tell the doctors? Yes, I do. But my mother, on the other hand, she wants them to give me more meds. She says this is fantastic. No, he was born like that. Meanwhile, if they take me off the meds, it goes away. She's telling me this is permanent, it's just me. Meanwhile, if they take the meds away, then I just become a hyper person, running around very hyper, can't concentrate. I'm ADHD. But by the age of 12, I have PTSD and anxiety from my mother. And I still have that today. I have flashbacks of what my mother did to me. I'll still have anxiety when I think it might be a misunderstanding, because every time there was a misunderstanding around my mother, I would either get smacked, drugged, there'd be stories made up about me. It just got really out of control quick every time with my mother. Like if I jumped in a pool. Simple. I caught the back of my foot on a fence, right? Simple. But see, that's confusing. She wasn't there to see it. I'm hurt. She doesn't like my brother Tim, even though he's 50 years old with a 2-year degree in psychology. So what is she going to do? She's going to say it's self-harming and it's suicide. But then when my father and my brother try to overrule her, she goes, okay, fine. And then when they walk away, she gets right up to my face, nose to nose, and says, I don't care what they say. I'm telling your doctor it's self-harming. So yeah, and then they're going to run away today. I guarantee you, if you call my father today, he would just be a douchebag, acting like this is some. He'd probably call me mentally ill, say it's all a lie. I can prove it. I can call his doctor, and he messes up his words on his camera, so he's just a liar. Yeah, I'd like to see you put 20,000 hours into getting better and see how good your videos are. You think you're so good at doing this? Let's see how much you can do. Let's see how much, without lying, without fancies. Let's see how much you can do sticking to the truth without messing up a single statement. I mean, I paint this too straight as it is. I was a child that was going through child stuff. I had to learn lessons because I'm new to the world. It's not like you get born age 20 with all the world's rules in your brain. So when your mother makes up a story and tells you this is how it is, that's the view you have. Now I'm 32 and I've wiped out all this horrible stuff my mother told me, and it's great because now I just follow Jesus. I work hard. I go to the doctor, but there's a problem. They need accurate medical history that matches my real disabilities. If my doctors go with my medical history that's on file now, that my father created by making up stories, I get malpracticed and hurt, and they can't really write much down, and nothing makes any sense. So when I go in there talking funny and they find me on the side of the road or something, all they can do is say it's probably a game. But if they spend the money testing me and looking at it, then they go, oh my God, it's real. That's because of my father. That's why I get that a lot. At first, they're treating me like shit, thinking that I'm playing a game. But then they have the, oh my God, this is real moment. And then they're like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And sometimes the doctors get to that moment too late, and they've already malpracticed me and they've already felt terrible about it. So they just pass me off like a bad cookie or something. And that's thanks to my mother and father. All that torture, all that mental illness, all the shit I have to go through today, tomorrow, all that can be reduced. I can get my body back with epilepsy medication. My father just won't let me get better. He doesn't want me to get better. He doesn't want me. He won't let me. The only way the doctors do this is either to see me have multiple injuries over multiple years going on, so that way they can do all these different background. I mean, it's not even like I need the good diazepams for my epilepsy. There's plenty non-controlled substances, and I've been on gabapentin all the way to Lyrica with no problems ever. I've never had any problems taking my meds. Now, when I was a teenager and I was all fucked up on psych meds, yeah, those meds, I was cutting them in half, and sometimes people were wanted the other half. But I was cutting sometimes my Ritalin and the Seroquel in half. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. Yes, I should. Oh my God, I should. Oh my God, that was 600 milligrams of Seroquel, 150 of Thorazine, 200 of Trazodone, Lamictal, Risperidone, all in one night. I memorized my med list, and that was probably at about 15, 16 years old. And at about 17, I started breaking the Seroquels in half. I think the doctor raised me to 800 milligrams, but maybe I stayed at 600 milligrams because I don't think they do make 800. Anyways, at 600 milligrams, I was just breaking them in half. Wait, there was the 300s. Yeah, I went from 300 to 600. Gee, that's a big jump, isn't it? Anyways, the Seroquel was way, way powerful. It was way, even 300 was ridiculous, and I told the doctors that. But I also told them I was having trouble sleeping because of my heart rate. I said, when I take these Seroquels and Thorazine and Trazodone and all these pills, I get this weird feeling, horrible feeling, and my heart feels like it's going to beat out of my chest. I feel really, really awful in the head, and it's just not a good feeling. He goes, you got to give it time. I gave it like 4 years. 4 years. And I gave the doctors and my mother and my father 15 years of my life playing with my body. I let the doctors, my mother, and my father play with my body because they were adults who were supposed to be helping me. But all they did is end up injuring me and fucking with my medical records to the point I would never, ever get help. And my mother knew what she was doing. You can't fucking lie to me. I knew my mother knew what she was fucking doing, and that's the problem. She was on purpose avoiding responsibility for what she did. Of course she did. But how about my father? Did he know? I'm not so sure if he did or not anymore. I used to think he was a victim being manipulated too, but the way he acts tells me he knew something the whole time was going on. And he just wants to ignore it, ignore it, ignore it, ignore it until I suffer from his sins and die.